Welcome to Breadboarding. This is video 35 in the Breadboard 8088 PC series, and in this video we continue on from the previous video. We built MS-DOS 4.0 from source. Now we're going to continue to build the patched and updated 4.01 from source. So when we tried to boot the MS-DOS 4.00 off a physical drive on a reasonably old PC, it wouldn't work due to there's a stack bug in one of the files. So we're going to be applying these changes which pretty much makes MS-DOS into 4.01. And once we've built that on DOSBox, we're then going to have a go at building it on MS-DOS 3.30 on a virtual machine. So I'm not going to go through all the details here, but basically we're using NeoZ's updated files which had fixed a number of the issues. We're using DOSBox initially, and then we will use the MS-DOS 330 VM. As we said previously, the source was originally 4.00. However, NeoZ had applied a number of fixes which pretty much makes it into the 4.01 release, and we'll actually compare the 4.01 release we build with the original 4.01 release and see how close it is. So the issues that we addressed we covered really last time, and in doing this we will be incorporating all these changes already. So what we need to do now is just to look at the folder where we're doing this in. So I've copied the original 4.00 stuff to this MS4.00, and in our current working folder I have a copy of the source that we had previously. So this has already had a lot of the changes merged in for all of the line draw characters and things like that, but it hasn't any of the bug fixes merged in yet. And I've also cleared the bin folder here as well, so we're all ready to do this now. So let's run winmerge and we'll merge in all the changes. So if we look on our current source here, and we're looking at the Neo's DOS 4.0, and we can compare that. So we're just going to need to merge in all the changes here, particularly all the bug fixes. So now we're going to start DOSBox and mount the drive again. Okay, so we've got the files there. So now we're just going to crank up the performance of the DOSBox, so we'll get up to about 300 or 400 at the top there. That should run pretty fast. I'll just make it full screen. So now we just need to go into the source folder, and we're going to check we've got our files there. So set env, then we're going to do n make -i -x DOS 4.01.log. Okay, should be ready. That will take a few minutes, so I'll speed that up. Okay, so that's finished. Now the only thing it wasn't able to delete the sys file because I think it had existed already, so that's to be expected the first time you run it. So that all seems to have completed okay. We're just now going to do the copy to bin, and we'll log to copy to log. Okay, so now we can go back to main screen share, just have a look at the log file. So just check that all the files are copied. Yep, so we haven't got any missing files, so everything's complete there. So now what we need to do is to make an image for this. So just need to edit our MS boot bin, just need to trim it down to 512 bytes. So you appear to have something extra on the end there, so we don't want that. It needs to end with 55AA, which is the magic number that we need for a valid boot sector. And then all we're going to do is from the top here is to go Control Shift Home and then delete. And hopefully you've got length 512 bytes. We're just going to save that. So that's our boot sector. Now what I need to do is to go into WinImage, so close this image. We're going to create a new 1.4 megabyte image. We'll save it. I need to save this in this folder, so I'll call it MS-DOS 401. And we'll make it an image file, not a compressed one. Now we just need to import the boot sector properties. So it has its own WinImage one, but we're now just going to open and we're going to go to our MS boot bin. And see, this is OEM string 400. We'll keep that like that. So we've created our image now. All we need to do now is to copy some of the other files in. So the issue is we need to restart a DOSBox for it to pick up that new file. So now we've got the image there as well. So now we just need to mount the floppy disk. IMG mount a image minus T floppy. So just do DIRA. Okay, so now we just need to copy /bin ms.sys and command.com. Now we should have a bootable disk. So now we can type, just check the version that we're in here. That's DOSBox version 0.74, reported DOS version DOS 5. So now if we do boot -LA, now have DOS 4.01. What we can just do now is to copy the rest of the files over. So you can see we've got the files there. Now what we're going to do is to inject the rest of the files that we have. Just checking we're using the right files, and we just don't want to replace. No. Okay, so now we have our complete disk there. Just need to start DOSBox again just to be able to reload that. Now we're just going to mount the image again. So we've got MS-DOS version 4.01, and now we've got the folder there as well. Let me just share this on the main screen, share this full screen, so you can see MS-DOS version 4.01, and we've got all the files there. So I'm going to make a bootable floppy disk out of this. I'm going to try this in an old PC I have with legacy BIOS mode enabled. So hopefully you'll get some video of that a little bit later. I'm just going to compare the version we've just built with the, so this is in our bin folder, with version 4.01 from some floppy disk images. And we can see that although there's quite a lot of files which are identical, we've got a few files obviously which come from the boot disk, but we can see that debug.com has some differences. There are one or two files here from the shell which we don't have with this release. So GW basic, himem.sys we came across before, but io.sys is different as well. and the select exe are both different as well. So you can see that what we've been able to build is pretty close. Certainly things like fdisk and format are actually the same. When we did this, when we compared the 4.00 to 4.01, then format and fdisk had differences. So those differences had actually been resolved, but there are still a few minor differences, but it's going to be pretty close to the 4.01 binaries here. So now I'm going to use my MS-DOS 3.30 virtual machine. Now this is actually on VMware Workstation 17. Now it's just because I happen to have a license for this. I could use any other virtualization platform. And I've already installed the MS-DOS 3.30 operating system. I've also configured it to have the Microsoft CD extension so it can actually read ISO 9660 CD images. Now the reason why we need to use a CD here really is because MS-DOS4 files are approximately 24 megabytes, so that'd be about 17 floppy disk images we'd need to make, so it's a bit cumbersome. So we can use an ISO CD image and the CD driver. The only issue is that when I first tried this I had some problems because the DOS environment can only handle the ISO 9660 format, and that only allows you to have alphanumeric file names and underscore, and a lot of the DOS source files have actually got the dash, minus sign in them, and it basically, when you convert it into a ISO format, it will substitute the dashes with underscores, so that messes everything up. So what I've had to do is to zip the source files and then use pk unzip under DOS to extract those. Also found that building it needs more free RAM than you can have with the CD-ROM drivers. So during building we need to disable the CD drivers, and also the path that was in the files that we downloaded had the path added at the beginning rather than the end, and this resulted in picking up the old DOS link.exe, just a 2.x version, and not the one which is ships with the source code, which is 3.x. So these are a couple of things that caused a few problems when I was first trying to do this. What I'll show you now is creating the zip and ISO image, downloading it to MS-DOS, and actually building everything on MS-DOS 3.30. So first we need to create a zip. So here is the refresh source for the build of the 4.01 that we did previously. So I'm just going to create a zip file for this. Then I'm going to use an ISO image creation tool, so I'm using image burner here, and all we need to do here is to specify the destination, and we're going to choose the folder we've been using here. MS-DOS, save that as an ISO, and all we need to do now is to add our zip file. Then we're just going to burn that, and we'll just make it MS-DOS 4.01 is the CD label. Okay, so that's made our ISO image. So you can see we've got our ISO image there. So now we're going to go to VMware Workstation. So what we're going to do is to specify the CD. So choosing that as a CD, we will connect the power on. So just going to start up that virtual machine. Okay, so we should just now be able to look at the D drive. There we go, we've got the source.zip there, and I've also got pkzip installed on here. And if we also just do a check disk, so this shows us we've got about 508k of RAM free with the CD drivers loaded. Now to start with, all we're going to do is to go to D and do pk unzip, and we need to include the -d to create the directories. We don't want to copy the zip file over onto the C drive because then it runs out of space as well. So we've got a 32 megabyte partition, but if we were to copy the zip file on there as well, it will fail at some point because of the amount of space the zip file takes up. Okay, so we've got our source folder now. Now we do need to make a small change here. I have got the Norton editor. We just need to change the back root to C. And you can see that we've got the path at the beginning here, and if we have the path at the beginning, it causes us problems with the version of link. Now before we can build this, we just need to now disable the CD drivers. F3 you use in the editor, Norton editor, to get to the save options. So now we just need to reboot that. Let's come up if we now do check disk. So now we've got 562K of free, so that should be sufficient for building this. So now we need to do is to go to source, set the environment, and then we'll do nmake -i -x dos401.log. Okay, now we're going to build it on MS-DOS 3.3. And we do occasionally get the out of memory and building select, but if we just go back and rerun this, just do 2.log. The second time through it will normally succeed. And then we've got the EMM386 at the end there, so that has all completed successfully. So now we'll just do is the copy to. Just make them in a folder. Okay, and if we just look at the copy2.log, you can see that in fact all the files have been copied, so that has been successful. So there we have it. We've been able to build MS-DOS 4.0 on an older version of DOS. It does require a little bit more messing around than with DOSBox, but it is actually sort of a valid build. And we could then make the boot disk as I showed you previously with the imaging tool. Now I'm going to show you how to test booting this with a floppy disk drive in a relatively modern laptop. It's about 10 years old, this laptop, so I don't use it for anything, so it's okay to mess around with the BIOS. So what you actually need to do when going into a laptop like this or a PC, you're going to need to change the BIOS to enable legacy mode, and if you've got a Windows installed, chances are you need to disable UEFI BIOS support, so that'll stop it from booting off the hard disk. So once you have that enabled, then you'll probably want to change the boot priority order. So we can see here that it's going to boot off the USB floppy disk first. Then if we've got a USB hard drive, a USB key, and then finally it will boot off the internal hard disk. So what this means is that it should actually boot off the floppy disk drive that we got, and you will see over to the right hand side over here, you should be able to see the light flash when it's actually working. So what we're going to do is to save those changes, and we're going to let it boot up. You should be able to see the floppy disk light on the right hand side there illuminating as it's loading the operating system. Unfortunately, the video camera and the bit of reflection and the laptop won't actually drive the external monitor output when it's in DOS or in BIOS mode, unfortunately. Okay, so we've got MS-DOS version 401. There we go. So we've got it running, and What I'm going to be doing in the next video, I'm going to be looking at then trying to run this in the Breadboard PC. We'll then look at customizing some of the boot up so that we actually get a bit more diagnostic information to see where things may be stopping. If you don't want to miss out on future videos, please hit subscribe, and if you can hit like as well, just helps to make the videos available to a wide number of people. Thanks for watching.